All right, now let's take a look at the very last two questions on the notes. We have these two questions, and then you have the form to finish. Okay, again, whenever we deal with absolute value, when we go to solve it, we don't want to make any decisions on whether it's like no solution and or until the absolute value itself is isolated. So when we look at this question 5, we want to make sure that we isolate the absolute value first. So we have to be able to, when we look at the problem, we have to be able to actually see that those pipes are in there, those absolute value bars actually exist, like they're a thing, and identify where those are at. And we want to dig out that whole set. So a lot of kids will look at it and just start like, oh, I can distribute inside the absolute value bars. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Do you hear me? Don't do that. You can't distribute inside of absolute value bars. Um, they're not parentheses. They're grouping symbols, but they are not parentheses. So you can't operate as if they're parentheses. In order to get rid of the pipes or the absolute value bars, you got to do that special split move that we've been talking about, separated into two separate problems, a positive side and a negative side. So please, 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 please do not look at this and try to distribute -3. Okay? Is that point clear? Don't distribute the -3. It's not parentheses. But I need you to identify that they are absolute value bars. So maybe a good idea when you're doing these problems is just to go and mark that, like where they are. So like you reach out with your pencil or your stylus and you just mark. Those are absolute value bars. Those are special. We deal with them different than parentheses. Make sure you know that. Okay. So we're going to work to isolate that. So we have a times there and a +8. So we're going to get rid of the +8 by subtracting 8 from both sides, just like you did when it was an equation. It's not an equation. So when we go ahead and we subtract 8 there, we get -15. Now when we have a new problem that we want to pay attention to, now again, we still have the absolute value bars though. Do not distribute the -3. Instead, we're going to divide by the -3 to move it over. And what that does is that isolates those absolute values and we can deal with it separately. Drop my stylus. In addition to that, though, if you notice, -15 divided by -3 is 5. You need to flip this inequality, okay? Now, after we do that, we can split it. 2x plus 5 over here, greater than 5. We have a situation right here where it's great or greater, so we think great or, okay? So the word we write in between is an or. Now we have the negative side, -5, and we're going to flip that inequality sign again. Notice how we turn around and we flip this, okay, my friends? Now we can turn around and we can keep talking. -5, 2x greater than 0, divide by 2, we get x is greater than 0, -5, 2x is less than 10. Notice how we're doing these as two almost separate problems, that at the end we're going to put them back together. Divide by 2, x is less than -5 then. We have an or in between, so there we go. Okay, we're going to graph those. X is greater than 0 is going to be that. X is less than -5 is going to be that. Since it's an or, we take both of them, we just put it on the number line, and that is our final answer. All right, that would be our graph. In interval notation, far left would be -infinity. We get all the way to -5. And then skip, there's a gap in it. So union, 0 to +infinity. All right, now, again, another scenario. Don't make the determination whether it's and or until the very end here, until you isolate that absolute value. In order to identify which one is the absolute value, just give it a mark, say that's where the absolute value is. Now we need to dig that out. Add 5, 2 absolute value bars, remember? X plus 2 less than or equal to 8. Please note when you do this that we're not going to distribute this too. Absolute value are not the same as parentheses, so we need to deal with them differently. Divide by 2. Absolute value x plus 2 is less than or equal to 4. Now, at this point, we can turn around and we can split it. This is where we get rid of the absolute value bars by splitting. We have the regular side. We have the negative side, and we flip the sign there. Remember, we flip this sign. We also, less than, that sign tells us less band. Okay, so it's an and problem, and we write the word and in between. Now, after we do that, we can turn around and keep solving. Minus 2, x is less than or equal to 2, and minus 2, x is greater than or equal to negative 6. That winds up being our solution. When we turn around and graph this puppy, we have 2, open, close circle, left. Now, negative 6, close circle to the right. It's an and, so it's just the overlap. Again, if you wanted to do them separately, you would have this, that, squish them together, and it's just where the overlap. The interval, we pay attention to the final graph that we did, negative 6 and 2. Don't forget to do the Microsoft Form quiz. Peace.